Take a deep breath. We're going to count down. We're going to go 5, 4,
Yeah,
3,
he's got me doing that right now.
2, 1. And we'll just do that on set, right? Like,
This is episode 7 of the Marvelous Moments podcast. This is actually a special edition of the Marvelous Moments podcast because I'm introducing you to one of our lead videographers for Marvelous Captures. Whenever we have a wedding, an event, whenever we're doing video, this is your guy. They'll be behind the camera doing all the lead video work. He's the drone operator. He's your lead videographer. This is Randy. So, Randy,
hey, Vishan.
tell me a little bit more about how we connected and like how you actually got into videography actually.
Yeah. So, you and I go way back. We've known each other for probably the last 12 years or so. So you and I actually met when we first started working at Best Buy. We worked in the warehouse and, a lot of shenanigans, stocking late at night, just being there until 4 or 5, sometimes 6, 7 a.m. in the morning. Uh, and, you build a lot of synergy in those kind of environments where you're just like so tired and you want to be home in
Oh
bed.
yeah, I
Uh,
think we just finished high school too, so it's like between those
y-
college
yeah,
stages.
you're in that very formative age. So that's where we met. And then, obviously we've kind of went our different ways, different paths of life. And then probably 2021, 2022 when we connected again, and you were doing photography and I was doing more video work. And then we, connected, and then we started to share kind of our knowledge for each of those passions that we had. So I was sharing with you video, you were sharing with me photography and flash lighting and those kind of technical features that I wasn't really aware of. And that was the beginning of our cohesive, start. And, flash forward to now we're working on weddings all the time. You're doing content creation and I'm helping along, doing corporate content.
Cameras back then. I didn't even know you were into cameras when I hit you back up back in 2022. I was like, "Hey, do you want a photo shoot?" And you were like, "Yeah, maybe." And I didn't even know that you did camera work, and then we reconnected again like maybe a year later after that. And then you came to the studio. I was renting like a studio at the time, and you were just giving me some basic tips about how to do video for the first time. Like I never like put in perspective of how you got to be animated on screen, have like kind of like a persona, display confidence, but at the same time it's like has to be relatable so everybody wants to tune in,
Hmm.
so it's not that dry salesman like.
Yeah. Yeah. How a lot of people kind of come off when, as soon as they see the camera comes on, they kind of go into like a salesman mode, which it's so easy to fall into that.
Yeah, and you really kind of opened my mind to that, and that's where the content creation side kind of was born from there too. Where I was like, I started helping other business owners with their content, taking their pictures, taking their videos, making them video edits, and that eventually grew to where I was eventually managing multiple brands. The same thing that you do. I think you work specifically with boats and like golf carts. You've done just content for those two specific things. Can you imagine needing content for just that? But everybody needs content really,
Hmm.
so it's like how do you grow your brand? How do you sell your service? So it's like jobs like that. But tell me a little bit more about your videography past, though. Like, what kind of jobs have you done? What
Hmm.
like
Yeah. Yeah. So to give like a really big overview of kind of what got me into videography and photography. So when I was probably about 9, 10 years old, this is about when YouTube was, really starting to get popular. A lot of people were getting onto YouTube and just kind of making really silly sketches and such. And, I found a camcorder in my parents' garage, and I, you know, went to some of my other friends around that kind of liked watching YouTube and stuff, and I was like, "Hey, we can kind of make our own stuff. We could be funny." So that's kind of where it started. I didn't really post a whole lot on YouTube, but it kind of got me familiar with working with cameras. It got me introduced to different functions that the cameras can do.
so
And
did you
then
know right out of high school you were gonna be a camera professional or like
I think I had a pretty big suspicion that that was like what I wanted to be doing. I didn't know that it was really a career opportunity as much as it kind of has unfolded that path that's kind of unfolded for me. But I definitely think that that's kind of where I was kind of like being gravitated to. You know, obviously even working at Best Buy, I started selling cameras and started working in that camera department. So I was constantly being surrounded at that point. I was seeing other, you know, artists and other directors and whatnot coming in and purchasing cameras from me. So I was also getting a small peek into like what they were using and the kind of level of productions that they were working with. And, you
Yeah,
know,
definitely shout out Best Buy 1156 Winter
yeah.
Garden.
And at this point in time, Instagram was popular, but it wasn't as big as it is now as a platform of getting your work out there and actually even being an influencer. So, you know, I could follow a lot of these different people that I was meeting on Instagram and kind of see like, okay, like this is the path that they were taking, this is the path that this person was taking.
Mhm.
And not necessarily that I would have had ever followed one particular path or just kind of copied one particular person, but you know, using social media that kind of got me my first start in, you know, as a career, you know, videographer, as a career content creator. I was actually on Facebook in a local winter garden group, and I found someone who, you know, had just made a post looking for someone to edit content for them. You know, they didn't need someone to shoot yet, so I reached out and said, "Hey, this is what I do. You know, can I help you out?" kind of thing. And they got back to me the next day, said, "Hey, actually this project isn't really going as much as we planned it was, so we don't really need anybody right now, but thanks." Um and then fast forward probably about a month later, that person hits me up again on Facebook Messenger and says, "Hey, by the way, you know, the project, you know, isn't going to happen, but the place that I work at is looking for someone, you know, to be a creative on the team. Would you want to interview?" You know, at this time I was still working at Best Buy, so I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'd love to come in and see if that's a potential opportunity. Because if I could just work with my camera all
So
day."
right after Best Buy coworkers,
Yeah,
you just went straight into camera work.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you never even really touched back another retail position.
Correct. Yeah. So pretty
Damn.
much from there, I just kind of jumped into doing videography.
Wow, I think how
Um,
old were you? Like 19, 20?
this
Because
was
like
about
I quit Best
20.
Buy
This
at
was about
like
22. So I worked at Best Buy for about 4 years.
okay, yeah, I quit Best Buy when I was like 21. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I went in there. They really liked the work that I produced. This was for a mortgage company. Um, so I started with them, and I was there for 3 years. Did a lot of directing. That really got me comfortable directing in a lot of different personalities. You know, a lot of these industry professionals, whichever industry it is, whether it's real estate, mortgage, lawyers, you know, basically any industry. These people aren't trained media professionals. They don't have media training. So that's one big thing that I kind of had to step into is how do I make people feel comfortable on camera? How do I help them? How do I coach them to deliver the best line? How do I coach
Yeah.
them to get their enunciation and their delivery in the appropriate manner?
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that pointing and hitting record is just
It's just a very small fraction
yeah.
of what a videographer does. Um, yeah, it's just a very small fraction of what a videographer does. And I think one of the biggest things that I found working across all the different companies that I worked for and directing a lot of the different talent that I've worked with is really just being able to make people feel calm. You know, that it's a very high stress thing to be in front
Oh
of the
yeah, that's why
camera.
Cynthia definitely loves you at the weddings
Yeah.
because
So, yeah, being calm on set, making your talent feel calm is one of the biggest things. Um, you know, in one big way that I like to do that is just say, "Hey, let's take a beat." You know, if I can tell someone's getting flustered, I say, "Hey, let's take a beat. Let's take a deep breath. We're gonna count down. We're gonna go 5, 4,
yeah,
3,
he's got me doing that right now.
2, 1, and we'll just do that on set, right? Like, you know, you just got to make everybody on set feel comfortable because the last thing you want to do is have all this negative kind of like amped
Oh no, yeah,
up,
because
pent up
especially if you have a bad
energy.
take, the bad take can ripple effect. It's like
Hmm.
if you're shooting basketball shots, like and you keep missing, you got to shake it off and just one shot at a time.
Exactly. Yep. So one take at a time. That's kind of how we roll.
But definitely I like what you were saying because you went from Best Buy into like you just started with like a little position before you got into the realtor position, or you just went straight into the content creation for the realtor spot.
So I was doing freelance work while I was at Best Buy. So here and there, I was working with different music video artists, you know, different artists in the
Oh, so you've done
area.
music videos too.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I started in the video realm. You know, obviously not a lot of companies want to take risks on someone who doesn't, hasn't gone to school for this or hasn't, doesn't have a
Is
big
there like schooling
portfolio.
for this though? Like, what would you define this as? Like,
Yeah, you could go to like Full Sail, or Valencia has, media arts
but is
programs.
anybody like really requiring that certifications to be hired, or
Not typically. Now, a lot of businesses, if you're going into like a marketing position, may want to see that you have a marketing degree. A lot of companies, a lot of
s-
corporations may want to see like a bachelor's
would the
degree.
marketer have to have photography skills, or
Not all the time. Now, really, it depends on the field that you're going into. And a lot of times it's also the company that's hiring. Maybe they want someone that is going to be a little bit of a hybrid role, that is going to do marketing, that is going to do videography.
because I wouldn't define you just as a videographer. You're more of a marketer, director,
Yeah.
videographer, photographer,
hmm
basically everything in one bundle.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, so I'm a marketing strategist. That's how I like to define my role. So I step in and help brands and companies define what their marketing strategy looks like, and I help them create their content, curate their content plan, and really define what that next 3, 6, 9, 12 month is going to look like for their socials, and really just kind of how to scale up what they have currently in place.
Okay, yeah, because that definitely makes sense. Because if you're selling at this level and you invest in content now, the content can basically reach you to new audiences that will allow
hmm
you to grow to another level. So
Yeah.
definitely see where that
Yeah,
makes sense.
content is basically like a digital billboard. So, you're driving down I-4 every single day, you're seeing this big obnoxious billboard every single day. Well, we don't want to make your content obnoxious, right? But it's the same thing when you're scrolling on your phone every single day. You're being
Oh
bombarded
yeah,
with different ads
there's
and
so
and
many ways you
everything.
can appeal to your audience, from pictures, carousels, videos,
hmm
edits.
And it's really about being creative about how you're appealing to your audience, right? So we don't want to go and give that same cookie cutter message that the last realtor has posted or the last lawyer has posted. Like, we want to make it fresh, we want to make it engaging. So part of that is really building what that looks like for your particular personal brand or your business, and what kind of voice that's trying to embody.
Yeah, so just to kind of like recap now where I came from to meeting up with you after Best Buy. Like, I kind of had multiple other jobs. I was trying to still figure out what I wanted to do. I was actually pre-med.
hmm
So I was going to be a doctor. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to do in the medical field. I don't belong in the medical field. But after some time, I just fizzled out, and I literally dropped out of UCF. Then I tried to go to another school, dropped out of that school, and then I'm like, I have no idea what to do. Then I was like, okay, maybe I can do the sales thing. And then entrepreneurship hit me. I was like, okay, let me go into cars. I like cars, like window tinting, car wrapping. That's where I try to, start there. But then I was like, even that, I couldn't. Just the level of investment that you need to do those types of hobbies and skills is like, it's tremendous. And it's like,
hmm
if you mess up, you want to have the ability to keep trying again. So over time, I realized, that I can't do that either. But then I got married. So I got married pretty young. And then because I got married, I was just like forced to find something. Over time, like if you saw episode 1, you'll figure out that me and Cynthia decided, let's start wedding planning. And through that wedding planning, I realized we needed content. And that's how I became a photographer. But it wasn't just a linear path towards becoming a photographer. It wasn't just like, oh, we need content, I'm going to take the pictures. I was
hmm
like, I'm going to get somebody else to take the pictures. So I was like, hey, niece, you're 21, you want to take the pictures, I'll pay you, let's learn together. Obviously, I don't expect you to give me the most high quality pics. Just give me something, and then we'll use these pictures and we'll grow from there. We'll maybe, I didn't even think about offering photo and video services at this time. This was all about marvelous moments, wedding planning services. That's it. At the event of my cousin's bridal shower, she's just like, I can't do it, uncle. Like, and she just hands me the camera, and she's like, so I'm like taking the pictures. I'm like, okay. Eventually, fast forward some time, I'm working at a call center. Been at this call center. That's how I like established my business. I was a really good sales guy, but at this call center, I met a partner who kind of like helped me go into the photography realm again. He had a brother who was really good at it. So over time we would meet up and the three of us would take shoots and he would show us, and my vision for them was that them two be marvelous captures, me and Cynthia be marvelous moments. That's when I created Marvelous Captures. I created it around those two guys. So those two guys were gonna take all the pictures, but it fell out because they wanted to manage the money for the bookings. And I'm like, wait, hold on. That's not going to make sense. If I'm doing the marketing, I need the pictures and I need to have, like, if I sell the wedding and the wedding comes through me, I'm going to pay the photographers, not the photographers pay me. I'm getting the wedding. You're under Marvelous Captures, Marvelous Moments runs Marvelous Captures. It's Cynthia's photography team. That's how I kind of marketed. That's how I've created it. And she literally leads us when she's there at the photo shoot too. So it's like, it does make sense to be her photography team. But yeah, that's when it got a little dicey because at that point I realized I had to go learn the camera myself. So I bought my camera, my first ever A7 R4. It was $3,500 at the time, and then to buy a lens on top of it made the whole thing like almost 5 grand.
It's an investment. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that it's a lot more than just take a pics on an iPhone and
And we're not talking no flash, lighting equipment, video camera like what we have now and all these other gears. So it's like I'm trying to learn this. I remember posting my first picture and they still had their pictures on the Marvelous Captures page. And the picture obviously wasn't my what I have now. And when he saw the pictures, he's like his brother told me to like take it down. He's like said take all take all their pictures down because they're like, oh, it doesn't match, it doesn't belong. And I was just like, that really hit me because ideally what I wanted for Marvelous Captures to be was multiple perspectives, multiple styles. So it's like you will have your style, I'll have my style, and the bride will go to Cynthia, and basically Cynthia will present a portfolio of photographers and they can choose. So one day it could be all about photography. You come sit down with Cynthia, you guys go to a coffee shop, and she's showing you the most beautiful photographers she's ever worked with, and you get to choose, handpick your team to be there. But Marvelous Captures will have that network there for you. So, yeah, that's when I eventually had to learn the photography, mastered the photography. There was a lot of gatekeeping, of course. So, I don't know. You probably just learned through experience. I don't know. I had to learn through YouTube University.
yeah, a lot of YouTube and again a lot of experience. I think the music videos that I produced and created with a lot of the different artists that I worked with was a really big platform that kind of gave me the experience to kind of be creative, test my limits, kind of figure out what I do like to shoot, what styles I don't like to shoot, and really refine what that process looks like for me. And then obviously all the professional work that I've done has given me that even further refinement. But definitely the music videos were a big jumping off point and getting me kickstarted and all that.
Yeah, definitely. Because now to kind of like bring us together, where at the studio, like where we would now collab with the studio, I had master photography to a point where I'm doing photo shoots. I'm dabbling in video. I'm not really doing it as much. And then me and you meet up. We're working at this studio together. And then we just kind of realized, like, wait, at the studio, we were doing some working with like a car dealership type of thing. We were doing like car rentals and this photography studio at the same time. And then me and you kind of realized, wait, we should kind of double down in what we do best in photo and video and kind of just sell more events. So that's when I was like, okay, that makes sense. Let me go ahead and that's when I don't know when our first wedding was, but we eventually started doing our first weddings together. And then ever since then, we just, because of that synergy we had from Best Buy, it
Hmm.
just picked up from there. And
Yeah,
then
it made a lot of sense, to work with someone that I know, I have this working relationship with, and you're great at what you do. So it kind of just made sense to kind of team up and be able to jump in and tackle projects together.
and for the fact that we were able to cross train each other so quickly to level each other up. So now it's like we're both equally able to pass each other and be like, you take the photos real quick. I'll switch the video. I'll switch the photos. You take the video. So it's like we have that rapport. And then now we're able to manage multiple other team members too now. Well, it's crazy how much we've grown with just in like I want to say 2 years because we've done almost events 2 years now
Hmm.
together, where I've been doing events for almost 5 years. And then, like you said, you've been doing it since right out of Best Buy. This is a lucrative, fun field. Of course, we enjoy what we do. This is beautiful. We get to go at some of the most beautiful venues. We get to work alongside some of the nicest projects, like working on side yachts, Lamborghinis, mansions. You're doing these beautiful drone shots. Sometimes they're flying you out, all expenses paid. So a lot of people are like want to join in, but explain to the, the person watching, the bride, the groom who's watching, why they should choose Marvelous Captures instead of somebody, who's just trying to build their portfolio, or somebody who's just, obviously when you're shopping for your wedding, you're going to price shop. So why should you go with this photographer's price point compared to that photographer price point? And mainly, why you should choose basically us as your leaders for your photo and video team.
Yeah, so that's obviously a great question. There's a lot of really great content creators out there. A lot of my friends are really amazing content creators, and some of them also shoot weddings. So what it really comes down to, aside from price, because there's going to be a big range, is really going to be the style that we capture in. And I would really describe that as very much like a documentary style meets a directorial style. So really, there's going to be a lot of moments where we're going to be like a fly on the wall. We're going to be getting those documentary shots. We're, going to be kind of very much out of the way, kind of capturing just the essence of the day. And then there are going to be some instances where we are going to step in and direct, like, in the moments after the ceremony ends and we're taking, the bride and groom's photos together. Sometimes we want to have the bridesmaids and the groomsmen in, and sometimes we want to do some really creative shots with all of them.
Yeah, that's what I love about us, because we're trying to make it visionary based, kind of like not every wedding film is going to look the same.
Exactly. So, and that's really what it comes down to, is we want to tailor this wedding film specifically to the couple. So we're gonna do, I know you typically send out a questionnaire to the couples prior, basically kind of asking, hey, what kind of vibe are we looking for? What kind of music tracks are we looking for? And obviously they don't have to give you exact specifics, but if they can give you a realm, a Pinterest board, a Spotify playlist that you can kind of listen to and say, okay, I know exactly the theme. You can build that vision in your head and say, okay, we know we want these fun, energetic shots, or we want these really moody cinematic shots, or maybe we want these, really amazing interviews with the family members to really tell this story. And really, that depends, again, couple to couple. Some couples may not want to have a whole long wedding film that has every single speech in it, but some of them might. And that really is going to come down to how that couple and you communicate in that intake process. And then that really goes all throughout that process, from the engagement shoot all the way to the day of, all that coordination that goes into it. And then through all to the editing, all of that care and attention that you've put into the planning really comes out in that finished piece.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That's why we're not just some random shooters. With this podcast, the client's able to get to know us, learn a little bit more about our shooting style. We're gonna come on here together now. You're gonna co-host with me, talk a little bit more about weddings, events, what you notice, your photography, videos, why clients should go ahead, not just, invest in us for your weddings, but take this a little step further. Like what he was saying with the engagement sessions, the proposals, we can make a wedding film that's uniquely to you, starting from the proposal all the way to the ending of the wedding ceremony.
Hmm.
And that's ideally what I envision to, have Marvelous Captures grow to one day. But this was actually episode 7. I wanted to kind of have everybody introduce you to the audience and have the audience meet you. And, the next episode is actually going to be about how me and Randy work a wedding as Marvelous Captures. So yeah, the next couple episodes, we're gonna take you behind the scenes of how the photography and video side runs, so you can know the people behind Marvelous Captures, the ones you'll see on the wedding day. We're gonna be there for your wedding. Don't worry about anything. This is your lead videographer. I'm your lead photographer, and together we will go ahead and make sure your wedding is nothing but marvelous, and your photos and videos will look so beautiful because we'll tailor it exactly to you. So stay tuned for episode 8. We're actually going to tell you how we actually will cover your wedding. So that will actually be a good episode. See you guys then.